Hey guys.
Hey,
Hello,
Hey.
Bryan
But
and Steve.
yes.
how you doing, Matt?
Doing well, doing well.
Today we're gonna jump into Money Game Part Two by Ren, the second in a trilogy called Money Game. Are you ready?
Awesome.
Ready and
All
raring.
right, here we go.
Strange time we're living in panic and hysteria. Poor man learn, the rich man don't care for your narcissist mindset spread like malaria. Sit back and watch the show. America, Britain split through fickle shit. A government of hypocrites. These counterfeit politicians sit in parliament, not adequate. Come on, needlessly bleeding resources all dry. Turn a blind eye if it means a pay rise. Oh, what a shame it would be, I would die if number 10 Downing Street burned in a fire. Only joking, only messing, don't be stressing. I'm a peaceful adolescent, there's no need to be unpleasant. Write my thesis in a rhyme scheme to analyze the brain while my fingers on the trigger of a money game. Oh, rain, 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 rain. A storm, it comes our way. And no surprise to distorted lies. Poison in the veins, but we die upon the blame, 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 blame. It's easier to blame, but point the mirror at ourselves. We're all part of this whole money game. This old money game. This old money is a game and the ladder we climb turns a saint into a sinner with his finger in crime. I'll break it down for you motherfuckers line by line. This is business economics in a nursery rhyme. She sells seashells on a seashore, but the value of these shells will fall due to the laws of supply and demand. No one wants to buy shells cause there's loads on the sand. Step one, you must create a sense of scarcity. Shells will sell much better if the people think they're rare, you see. Bear with me, take as many shells as you can find and hide them on an island. Stockpile them high until they're rarer than a diamond. Step two, gotta make the people think that they want them, really fucking want them. Hit them like Bronson. Influencers, product placement, featured primetime entertainment. If you haven't got a show, then you're just a fucking waste man. Free, it's monopoly. Invest inside some property. Start a corporation, make a logo, do it properly. Shells must sell, that will be a new philosophy. Swallow all your morals, they're a poor man's quality. 4. Expand, expand, expand. Clear forest, make land, fresh blood on hands. 5. Why just shells? Why limit yourself? She sells seashells, sell oil as well. 6. Guns, sell stock, sell diamonds, sell rock, sell water to a fish, sell the time to a clock. 7. Press on the gas, take your foot off the brakes, then run to be the president of the United States. 8. Big smile, make big wave, that's great. Now the truth is overrated, tell lies out the gate. 9. Polarize the people, controversy is the game. It don't matter if they hate you, if they all say your name. 10. The world is yours. Step out on the stage to a round of applause. You're a liar, cheat, a devil, a whore, and you sell seashells on the seashore. Rain, 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 rain. A storm, it comes our way. And no surprise to distorted lies. Poison in the veins, but we die upon the blame, 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 blame. It's easier to blame, but point the mirror at ourselves. We're all part of this whole money game. This old money game. This old.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this came out, I'm guessing, in the last 5 years,
Must
4
have.
years.
That was so brilliant to take this whole idea and start with a nursery rhyme that you know that's about the economy, kind of.
Right. Boy, he's got so much stuff that he's great at, but he's a really good singer. I really like his and
And really smart. I
yeah.
mean, his perception is pretty spot on.
It's like we've created this system where the people who
are sick enough to care that much about money are the ones that get to drive the show, right? If it's all you think about all the time, there's a way to get it. And then for people who I would say are living somewhat more balanced lives with interests that matter, totally screwed. Totally screwed.
It's fascinating that he says, "Listen up, America," toward the end, and then he starts talking about Britain. And it's like, okay, it's almost like this first verse is a little bit of a moral tale, right? And then he jumps into um, the she sells she she sells seashells part, and I'm wondering if now he's talking about America, especially by the time he gets to the end.
Oh, he's definitely talking about America. What's the line? Hold on, I gotta find it. Oh shoot.
Just press on the gas, take your foot off the brakes, run to the president of the United States.
That's it.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I'm saying this has to be. Do you know when this came out? Because this feels like he's kind of. I mean, he's talking about these age old things, right? But this stuff's happening in real time in a way we've never seen it before, and he's definitely talking about it.
Yeah, it looks like it. It was maybe 2019, 2020.
okay. Yeah, because he follows up that "Be the President of the United States" with "Big smile, mate, big wave, that's great. Now the truth is overrated, tell lies out the gate," which, you know, sounds a lot like uh,
Someone.
Yeah. So,
someone we know.
and the whole
What?
doesn't matter if it's good or bad; they're just talking about you, right? Where are those?
Oh,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they hate you if they all say your name.
Right.
There's a there was actual quote from our friend who what did he say? You know, he it's the old adage, no press is bad press.
yep.
Well,
Yeah.
if there is no moral underpinnings, right? That's true.
Mhm.
But we're also all part of the whole thing.
Right. Now he always brings that back around, right?
Yep.
It's never as simple as just pointing out what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, well, nobody gets to be the president of the United States without millions and millions of people putting them there.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
that's the scariest part about where we're at right now. We have so asked for it, right? I guess in the spirit of true democracy, we are getting the thing that we deserve most.
Mm. We've earned it.
We have earned it. We've worked hard for it. Are you kidding? Now how do we get out of it?
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Now our kids will find out. We'll be dead.
Oh, well.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I really like how he goes through these 10 steps. And the first four are kind of like traditional kind of uh, building a business kinds of steps. And then he starts to expand. So why just shells? Why limit yourself? And then he starts getting into all the craziness. And then it's like, oh, and by the way, government is also something you can buy. And this is how you get into that. Number 8. And then number 9, polarize so that you can be in control of the fear. And then 10, just soak in the glory of it all.
So it's about power, right?
Sounds like it's the art of the deal.
Yeah.
And he relates getting all the way to the top of the pyramid, but you're still selling seashells on the seashore.
So maybe this one's a little too close to home.
It's pointed and I think true.
Yeah.
So how many money game?
There's
Is
three.
there three?
Yep. It's a trilogy. Yep.
I mean, I'd like to jump into the next one because I feel like they play off each other, and I'm having a hard time remembering what the first one was.
Yeah.
Musically, right?
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
We will do that. I will.
Was it? I feel like the old one was like historical.
Yeah, the old one. Yeah. It was more. Had the history of different countries taking over other countries and things. Colonization. That's it. Yep. All right, I'm going to stop this, pause it, and then I'll get the other one going. All right. So let's jump into Money Game Part 3.
All
right.
Tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. 1 year old and his first words were mine, gimme. 2 years old he was walking, 3 years old walking quickly. 4 years old he was running round the pavements of his city. 5 years old and his daddy told him, listen here son, you gotta learn to be a man. A man he works for what he wants. 6 years old and he's reading, writing, top of the bunch. And when he's 7, his progression made him student number 1. 8 years old and he's praised for unusual grades. 9, his parents paid for private school to nurture the flame. 10, 11, 12, 13, he ascends and ascends. His daddy tells him, son, money is the means to all ends. 14, solving complex mathematical equations. At 15, IQ 150, still elevating. 16, he develops complex software code that detects weaknesses in cybersecurity protocols. 17, and he sells his vision, keeping the share. Not yet an adult, but he's practically a millionaire. 18, and his daddy tells him, now you're a man. This world don't give a damn about you, so take all that you can. 19, he turns a profit, stocks and shares, invest in product. 20, double down deposits. 21, his income rockets. 22, he learns that truth is just an obstacle to wealth. If you manipulate the data, then the lie will sell itself. 23, a life of luxury, crystal and cocaine. 24, he makes the Forbes list, they're applauding his name. 25, and his daddy tells him, listen here son, while you're sitting in that palace, that don't mean that you won. 26, a business shift, he switches business to arms. He's 27, dealing nuclear and shells in Iran. 28, inside the Senate, money bought him a seat. He's 29, a role of counsel in the president's suite. Now he's 30, his daddy says you're losing the race. You're just a servant to the king, not even in second place. 31, a big maneuver for his daddy's approval, moving imports over borders from the exports out of Cuba. 32, moving grams, growing kilos to tons. He's 33, filling warehouses with powder and guns. 34, turf war with nobody to stop it. Blind eye from the po-po inside of his pocket. "35, he gets the call. I'm sorry son, but it's your father. Had a heart attack, I'm sorry, he's gone. 36, getting pissed off, abusing his product. 37, eyes glazed, disposition demonic. 38, with a prostitute, a moment of passion, heating up a silver spoon and then chasing the dragon. 39, getting reckless and hungry for power. Daddy's words are still driving him to kill and devour. Makes a move against the cartel, but the strategy's flawed. They retaliate and leave him in a hospital ward. A bullet buried in his vertebra and one in his leg. The doctor sighs and says, I don't think you'll be walking again. Fuck. Let me tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. He was 40 and he cursed the words, mine, mine, gimme. 41, he wasn't walking. 42, not walking quickly. 43, never running round the pavements of his city. 44, inside a palace with a mountain of gold. But those riches turn to rubble when perspective evolves. Weighing heavy on his conscience is the value of gold. Lamborghini for a life, trading money for souls. Jimmy followed the code inside the land of the free. Put your hand inside the cookie jar, take more than you need. And his example is exaggerated versions of me. And it's a version of him, and it's a version of she, and it's a version of you. There's no escaping the blame. The way we live is parasitic. Fuck the money and fame. Cut the music. This isn't entertainment, this is real life. The way we live is lunacy, community, it declines. Hyperpolarized, always fighting, then we divide. Truth is less important than the money that we designed. Money's an invention, politics from our invention. They all come from people's ideas. Did I mention? Border's an invention, law and order fuel the tension. It leads to people killing each other. My solution? Everything is subject to change. We could build utopias if individuals were taught to use their brains. But if we teach kids in schools to always be sheep and put themselves before the herd, if there's more money for me, then there's no future I see where the humans survive. We're parasites inside a petri dish with cannibal minds. Mold will grow upon the surface and consumes till it dies. And our fate could be the same without this story to the wise. "45. Jimmy comes home out of the rain, soaking wet upon a wheelchair, drinking again. He is everything he wants, he is fortune and fame. He's a fortunate fool with an unfortunate fate. With a 45 caliber aimed at his brain. 45 a fitting number cause his age is the same. Here's the words of his father, it's such a damn shame. Then he presses on the trigger of a money game.
Wow. Doesn't go down so easy as the last one.
Mm-mm.
I love how he starts with history and then goes to current and then makes it
Right.
just keeps
Zo-
drilling down and drilling down and drilling
yeah,
down.
zooming in.
So, I mean, we have more billionaires than ever has existed in human history. This feels like the making of like an Elon Musk,
Mm-hmm.
right? The like, I mean, and I don't know. I don't mean to put. I mean, he's got his own issues, but somebody who is very capable, very intelligent, but everything is about getting more, right? And we breed this in our culture, right?
And everybody's wearing masks like they're hostages,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I think unless I'm misreading that, I think that's probably his intention is that everybody is held hostage by this money game.
Yeah. Nobody's really enjoying this. What does he say about utopia? We could build utopias if individuals were taught to use their brains, but if we teach kids in the schools to always be sheep and put themselves before the herd, if there's more money for meat, then there's no future I see for the humans. Survive. We're parasites in a petri dish with cannibal. So, like, this is totally unsustainable.
Yes.
But we frame it with like, look at all this progress. Look what we can do with all this, right? If we just had more means to build more stuff. Like what we could do with the money that is available in the world today, which is insane. But we can't.
Good. Like, I remember watching a documentary several years ago where they talked about how in America, statistically, we could grow enough food for every human on Earth. And we still have hunger in America because we don't get it to people. In fact, we pay farmers not to farm or to destroy their crops or to let them rot on the vine.
I mean, we built this machine, right? It's called capitalism. That we figured out a way to take ambition and greed and these really destructive elements and put them in a it's like nuclear energy, right? I mean, you take all that energy and you put it into a vessel that can contain it. You can do amazing things with it. But then we decided that any kind of restraint on capitalism is antithetical to the, to who we are as Americans. So let's take off all the restraints. That's really dangerous stuff.
It's not freedom unless we can do anything and everything we want.
Mm-hmm.
It, when do you guys remember Wall Street with Michael Douglas?
Yep.
He has that whole monologue about how greed is good.
Right.
Yeah, it's as satirical as that whole moment and movie was meant to be. It's like America took it as, oh, look, even, it's true. It was almost like a sermon rather than
But the thing is,
than
we really
cynicism.
we really and that's what this nation was built on. That's what many other nations are following our lead. But the thing about this video is it's like it plays it to its logical conclusion. Yeah, for a while, right? I mean, it has fueled one of the most incredible economies in the world in the history of human history this last century. Look what's been accomplished. But the irony is we can't do anything. We can't fix shit. We know how to build good cities. We know how to what we know how to do to make the human condition better off is stunning. And AI is going to increase that exponentially, and we won't be able to implement it because we're just caught up in this. It feels like this Jimmy character is he's a metaphor for that, right? I mean, he did everything his father told him to do. He just kicked ass at every level, and he's impotent at the end and suicidal.
Even I have been watching this documentary series on PBS about the future, and it's hosted by a futurist who goes around and talks to other people in the world. But one of the things that really resonated with me was this concept of 7th-generation thinking, where you look to the 7th generation to come and you work to build a world for them. So you're not even thinking about your kids or your grandkids or your great grandkids. You're making choices today because we can see the future. Like we can see that if I hit this domino, it knocks down that one, and we can see 7 generations down if we choose to. But we live with blinders so that we don't even see the crap that we're giving to our own children.
And our whole investment structure is built around the idea that we don't even have to think past the next quarterly report. Like, we're not even building businesses to last for the next 10 years. There is no long-term interests anymore. We just need to make sure that we hit those numbers in this quarter. Otherwise, our shareholders might sue us. I mean, the system is built for that, right? And for a while, maybe that fueled, and it absolutely fueled some incredible growth, but it is not going to get us anywhere but dead,
Well, it's all gonna fall apart, I think,
soon
anyway.
It's happening.
Yeah, and with AI, it's gonna fall apart even faster because the more you maximize just for profit, just for getting those numbers, that means you take advantage as much as possible of what AI can do, which means that people don't have anything to do, and then what?
And then you get this panic,
It's
right? Like a
Yeah.
run on a bank. The more worse it gets, the more you think, well, I better get mine, right? Because
you know what's funny, Brian, as you were talking, when Steve was talking, I was thinking about planned
Mm-hmm.
obsolescence and how we make space for the future for all of our stuff to not be any good in like 2 years when it used to last 20. And then you were talking, Brian, and I'm thinking, oh, it's not just my microwave, it's also
Yep.
me. Yeah. Planned obsolescence for the human race.
Yep.
Welcome.
Hot dog.
I love that he turned us so bold in a petri dish,
Yeah.
as if we have no agency, right?
Yeah.
We just so early on when this was playing, I was thinking about the fairy tale, The Fisherman's Wife. Do you remember this? The fisherman, the wife says, "Go get me." Oh, he catches a fish, and it happens to be a prince, and he gives him 3 wishes, right? And he throws him back, and he tells his wife, and his wife's super angry. Like, go back and catch that fish, and tell him we want a new house, right? And it seems like it goes over the pale because at some point he wants to be king, the pope, then he wants to be God Almighty, and you're thinking, this is crazy. I don't think it's so crazy anymore. I think it's still crazy, but it's like, nope. How did they know?
Right.
I don't think things have changed. I think since Babel, we've been trying to do that, right?
Look, the toys have changed and the
Oh, yeah.
consequences to our acts, right? We're doing the
Yeah.
same old shit. We are we
Hmm.
haven't learned a thing, but now the consequences are deadly.
Well, there.
And
Yeah.
universal.
Oh, just because, and I want to be careful. We didn't export the brokenness of the human condition, but we exported many ways to exploit that. We are really good at it
You mean as Americans?
as Americans.
I, this is getting a little back to like some of the storytelling parts, but I love how in part two he's got this 10-step process, and in part three he's got a 45-step story. Oh,
Yep.
but I mean, it all ties together. Even the historical colonialism. I don't remember that he does it like year by year or anything, but he walks us through
Yeah.
history.
It's a step by step thing
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the.
Well, and a big part of that is right. This has been happening. These have been conscious decisions that we have made over time, right? This isn't like, oh, how did this happen? We've been watching it happen. We've known about global warming since the 1950s, and we chose profits over doing anything about it. Somebody sent me an article last week about some scientists are saying, we need to stop thinking about how to mitigate global warming because the longer you stand there with your finger in the dike, the more likely it will be you who drowns first when it breaks. So maybe we need to start building shelters instead. The time is gone for that, and I don't know. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not ready to give that over to the eggheads yet, but it stands to reason that if we don't do something soon, that will absolutely be our choice.
Yeah.
Abandon ship and find somewhere else to live, or
Water world.
Yeah.
yeah,
I was watching somebody talking about the effects of all this on wildlife and how we're we're really removed from the effects this is having on everything else because we have air conditioning. Um,
oh yeah,
and if we had no air conditioning and had to live in this stuff, maybe we'd be a little more proactive about it. But yeah, animals and creatures are suffering and
And the
dying
irony that
all
the air
over the
conditioning
place.
makes it worse is
Right.
this
Yeah.
like,
Yep. Yep.
oh man.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's curious to me, and I understand that things are complicated, but it's curious to me the animosity that I see, at least in our community, toward any kind of effort in regard to like rethinking or trying new things that might actually help the environment and ourselves. Brian, I'm sure you've seen around
Yeah.
town.
Well,
Um,
changes.
the, all
It's
the
fear.
all the
Yeah.
signs, yeah, all the signs about no solar arrays, no wind turbines, don't turn our precious farmland into you know electricity making anything. Um, because we have to make that corn to feed
Well,
pigs.
Yeah.
the irony is that corn is even even more ironic is that corn is a lot of it is used for ethanol.
Well, and in that
Yeah,
and in that part of the country, those farms are all, most of them are owned by corporate, right?
Yep.
So this continues. So I think one of the things that has changed this game radically is the proliferation of, I would say, Fox News and this constant narrative that because I think that even though we're broken, we're fallen, we're prone to this stuff, we also have built in us some pretty good response systems. And there has been a concerted effort to break down that response system and to turn every solution into a threat and a lie.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
you just can't have a conversation about about your self-interest.
yeah,
yeah. Well, it's like the money
yeah,
game too. He talked about the polarization, and that's
yeah.
what it is.
Right.
I actually jumped back to that because I was trying to see, does he actually discuss fear in number two? 'Cause that's really the fear mongering is the thing that to me feels like it's the polarization is about fear mongering. It's not just about creating enemies. It's about dividing by fear, because when you can put fear into the hearts of people, now you control them, because you just have to turn the little dial, the little fear dial, to move them in whatever direction you want them to go. And on one side of the spectrum, there's the fear dial about losing your freedom and liberty and individualism or whatever. And on a different dial, there's a fear about the world coming to an end and none of us having a place to live and all
Yeah.
that.
Or people
And
coming in and taking what you got, and yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so I know that I align or find myself aligning often with a certain side on different issues, right? We all kind of do that. We choose like our angles. Um, but I at least also recognize that so much of those angles, fear still plays a role, even for me, in shaping that. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Well, it's uh, I think people the news fell into the trap too, because once one side started doing stuff that wasn't really news, and then the other side kind of saw that was working and started using some of similar tactics, not maybe to the same degree, but it 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 negatively affected the whole thing. And yeah, like Steve was saying, the news isn't news.
And
It's
news is a commodity
right.
in our culture, right? News is not a service as much as it is uh, a, a way to generate revenue,
And
right?
it's a manipulation to generate revenue. Yes.
And and so
It's part of the
Yep.
money game.
and so is education. I mean, that was the big shock for me when we got into higher ed, was like, I thought education it was going to be one place who could be thinking about beyond the market, beyond the quarterly spreadsheets, right? How do you train young
Yeah.
people for a better future? And it turns out in higher ed, they talk more about money in the bottom line than they were talking about if
Hmm.
we were working for making commercials.
Hmm. Well, that's because of another part of number two, and that is scarcity. If we have convinced ourselves that we live and are driven by scarcity instead of abundance, then then we're screwed. And so we say there's not enough food to go around. We say there's not enough power. We say there's not enough X, Y, or Z. And the reality is there's more than enough food. There's more than enough water. There's more than enough power if we actually shared it and used it well.
And if we
We
only
don't.
took what we needed and trusted that it would be there for us tomorrow. I'm thinking like this is like Old Testament manna, right? You get up in the morning, you
Mhm.
take what you need. It'll be there, right? And
If you take more than you need, it rots.
it rots. So there's all these lessons,
No.
things that we've been carrying around with us, for literally centuries about how to be humans, right?
No.
But all that goes out the window.
It's
People get scared.
makes me think
Yeah.
of the line from this third song: "Trading money for souls." Jimmy followed the code inside the land of the free. Put your hand inside the cookie jar. Take more than you need. And his example is
Mm.
an exaggerated versions of me and a version of him and a version of she, and it's a version of you.
Yeah.
There's no escaping the blame. The way we live, it's parasitic.
Mm. We're all part of it. There's this movie, and it has its flaws, but it's a documentary called I Am that Tom Shadyac made 10, 12 years ago. Um, and he talks about how in nature, uh, everything in nature is interdependent, and nothing in nature really takes more than it needs, except for people. And uh, and in a lot of like first cultures, um, if someone within the tribe or community takes more than they need, they're not seen as greedy. They're seen as sort of mentally unwell. It's a mental health issue, not not a greed issue. Because the idea of wellness involves all of us, and it's a fascinating look at all of that. That we think of ourselves as the top of the food chain, but in reality, with all of our IQs blooming just like Jimmy, we're the only ones who screw ourselves over.
How un-American of you, Matt, to even suggest that somehow I need the people around me to be my best self. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right?
Where's your rugged individualism, Matt?
Well, and the part that blows my mind is like, oh, I get that. Human systems. This is how we do things. When
Yeah.
did the church get completely bought into this idea of rugged individualism, which is so contrary to everything that is part of probably most of the world's religions, right? That somehow I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to build this monument to my own accomplishments. I mean, religion can be its own form of power, which can be really dangerous too. But so, I mean, so what's the solution? Or like, what's the story? What's the counter narrative here? You know?
I think it's community, the common unity that we all share that pushes back against this parasitic individualism. It is forward thinking, it is future thinking instead of instant gratification.
And,
Um,
other
it's
thinking.
it's other thing. Yeah, it's I need you for survival, and therefore I want to support you. The more it's Jeremiah, right? Seek the welfare of the community in which you are, and that is your welfare, right? Um, but we don't do that. We only think about scarcity. You know, I got to get mine, or else someone else is going to take it. It's not enough to go around. Blah blah blah.
Right, and that creates this pattern, right? But breaking that pattern and showing up and saying, "What do you need? What can I do?" And the more different you are from me, the more I feel like I need to extend myself for that. That that well,
Hey Max,
1 second, I'm gonna let dog out.
no worries. Hey Brian, where is Ren from again?
Wales.
Okay,
Where is wait?
because
Wales, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah,
I was trying to think like and there are a number of cultures around the world that are working toward more communal mindset of things, and there's been some good, really good payoff in Scandinavia. There's a lot of that, but in a lot of the world, there's still a good sense of I'm not sure of the right word, um, a sense of like belonging to a local community or tribe where what I do impacts the other people around me, and what they do impacts me too. So um, I think there's a lot of places in the world where this is actually there's a lot of good things happening and good things working, but we have the loudest voices. And going back to your news comment, the conversation we had about the news, news just amplifies those loud voices and tells the world that this is the norm. When I don't know that that's actually true. I think that much like American politics, uh, the loudest people often make up a minority of people, not a majority of people. And I wonder if the American West, the European capitalist sort of approach, um, is maybe not yet the majority, just the loudest. That's a question because I know that we have impact beyond just our
right.
voice.
I think there's definitely a huge element of truth there, right? That the extreme are the things that push forward some of these really toxic ideas and these toxic behaviors. But I also think that it's like an invasive species that at some point it takes. And then the guy on the street is like, I don't know, but I think I'm supposed to be pissed off. So, right? Like right now, everything that I've been reading and hearing on my news sources says that the economy is in pretty good shape. Pretty good shape. Um, Objectively, the numbers. But when they interview the people that don't have those numbers available, and they're like, well, I don't know, because I feel like I'm like, there's, it's scarce, right? It's that scarcity thing. Uh, so, so at some point, that loud narrative starts to change everything. And I don't know how you really, like being quiet and meditating to push back against the loud narrative. Does that work? I'm not so sure it does. Um, so what is it? How does one?
I think part of it is an erosion of the checks and balances on things. So there's, oversight on things, you know, yeah, kind of evening out things, um, keeping things up more under control. Um, I, I think that's at least part of why it's kind of deteriorating and going off the rails. Because
Well, and
there's no
those
balance to it. There's like, okay, capitalism. There's some stuff out there that's more attractive than some other systems, but without any checks and balances on it, then it's gonna go woo, which is what it is right now.
and those checks and balances have been under attack for the last 20 years, at least.
100%. Yep.
Right.
100%.
And now more than ever.
Yep.
So.
Because the people who make those decisions about checks and balances don't want to be checked or balanced themselves.
Well, and because now that corporations are people, and you can donate as much as you want to things, that of course it's going to be out of balance because they're going to make sure.
And some
you just buy and lobby what
right.
unit.
And the balance sheet on some corporation is larger than some nation's entire annual budget.
Correct.
Right? I mean, we've got, and this is kind of what, back to this third song, like we've never seen a rise to power that complete. Just hard work and get what's yours, and maybe rig the game a little bit, but be ruthless. And the level of power you can achieve through that is stunning. And where are the checks and balances on that? I don't think that the system was ever created to deal with that kind of power.
Right.
It was right. I mean, our system was created to deal with a very particular kind of power, a monarchy.
Yep.
But who would have seen all these little fiefdoms showing up with more money than no human being should ever have access to?
Any human system is going to have problems, so that's why you need just checks and balances on whatever system you've got, and when they start going away, people take advantage.
But, he talks about this. He says, I'm trying to remember which song it was, but we built these things. These are all man-made, right? Laws, money.
Yeah, it's a construct. Yep.
It's a construct. So clearly this construct that we've been living under, that we built, is not going to last, and we're going to pay dearly for it. What is the construct that one builds to push against it, or to undermine it, or do you just cut your losses and figure out how to survive on the other side, right? Because this storyline is not changing.
I think there's things you can do to swing this back to at least a more healthy, even thing. Whether we can do that as far down the road as we are is a completely different question. Maybe we can't, but
You brought up a point, Steve, and so I did a little digging real quick here. As of in 2021, so just 3 years ago, only 7 countries in the world had a higher GDP than Apple's market. So only 7 countries had a higher GDP than Apple's annual business workings. That's phenomenal. It was bigger than almost everything. Including countries like Brazil and Canada and Russia.
So that to me feels a little
is bigger than them.
The balance there seems a little off.
Yeah, and that's just Apple. That doesn't include Amazon. That doesn't include Microsoft. All these other behemoths.
And we have no mechanisms to hold them accountable.
We do.
We
don't.
We
just don't activate
using them, or they've been legislated out of use because.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have the moral backbone to use the tools that we have to hold them accountable. And part of that is because the lawyer game has everything to do, it's an armistice race, right? And if you have that kind of money and can pack the courtroom with that many lawyers, That's how the game is played.
Yeah, or
Money,
if you can give enough money to a politician, then they're not going to vote against your interest.
right? And Apple
Well,
or
Yeah,
and it's not just businesses. I mean, we see this in global politics where ruthless dictators are allowed to stay in power because there are economic relationships between their country that they're leading and other countries that have the power to join together, you know, in solidarity with other nations and say, "Hey, let's get this person out of there and clean things up or whatever." I mean, and I'm not saying you know, storming in and taking out dictators is the way to go. But what I'm saying is like there are economic factors that even stop stuff like this. It's not just about a single business like Apple or
right.
Amazon or Windows, was it Windows or whatever. It's about Microsoft. It's about arms races. It's about, you know, military and governmental exchange and trade. It's about everything. It's the system we created.
and and the system is actually a slave to itself too. Like, I mean, I'm sure there are good people at Apple, right? And
Oh yeah.
right, and they got into this because they had brilliant minds and wanted to make really cool things, and they've been doing that. But now they're at a size where could they, like, I don't know, when you brought it up that like Apple has more money than Brazil. Can you imagine like Apple going, hey, what can we do to help?
No, the
How can we use our,
shareholders aren't going to like that.
but the shareholders would sue them.
Yeah,
So the shareholders that probably wouldn't need another paycheck for 3 decades out, right,
Mhm.
would sue them in a heartbeat if they didn't continue to use all of their money towards inflating their bottom line. And they would have that right because our legal system holds them to accountable to their shareholders.
there's definitely something about money that just changes stuff.
The
You know, you remember Google their corporate slogan was "Don't be evil," and then they phased that out. Um, I've been following all this AI stuff really closely, and OpenAI's big thing was that they were open and that safety first, and that they were going to do all these checks and bounces and stuff on AI safety, and uh, then all of a sudden they got huge, and then people who were still believing in that tried to oust the guy running it, Sam Altman,
you know,
unsuccessful, and now the people who were on, they've basically lost their safety team. They all resigned
yeah,
because they said we were promised this amount of the budget to make sure that this was a safe system. They aren't giving us that anymore. It's not even part, you know. Anyway, so yeah,
Mhm.
the bigger you get and the more money's involved, the more it just
this is
yeah
the human
gets out of
heart,
whack.
right?
Yeah,
This is Jeremiah, right? The human heart, desperately wicked. Fortunately, there's more to us than that, but you can always depend on
Yeah.
her, right? Always
Yeah.
given the opportunity with nobody looking. But now the
Yeah.
stakes are so high. It's not like this is new that
Yeah.
no, but now
we're self-destructive, right?
now it's planetary.
It's planetary, and we only got one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was heartened the other day when I saw that Melinda French Gates was going to give away $1 billion, and then it struck me as like, what the heck is any one person doing with $1 billion that they can just give away and still, you know, and still have billions left over to give away next year, the year after. And so, like, I'm grateful she's a bazillionaire and she's going to give away $1 billion to help people who need it, especially like women. Fantastic. But what the heck is any one human doing with that much money?
And we
Like, the system is broken. I used to live in a country where people were starving every day, and right now there's no government in that country, and the starvation is worse than anything I've seen in my almost 50 years of being in and out of that country. And you know, one human has $1 billion. You know what that would do to this country's economy if they could I mean, for crying out loud.
Again, it's
And for every billion that these billionaires have, that's $1 billion that's not available as a resource for everyone else, right? Like there's a direct correlation between how rich those people are getting and how shitty we're paying our people that are working on the front lines. You know, that's what with our essential workers at Arby's, right? We just like 60 years ago, you could actually work a service job and support your family, and it was okay.
You could work a service job and put yourself through college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so right. So somebody's taking all the juice, man, and we could have put guardrails on that.
Well,
I mean,
again, I think it's I think it comes down to a big part of it is balance, and it's way out of balance. And we had some stuff that would have helped out a lot with this, and we neutered it, and or don't use it. And yeah, any human system that's out of balance is not gonna go well. And and the stakes are higher now than they've ever been because of the effect that we have on everything.
Steve, you were talking about invasive species, and I I'm doing this Indiana Master Naturalist class, um, and they were talking about non-native species and invasive species and differences, right? If you take something that's from outside of the community and bring it in, then it's not a native species, right? But it doesn't necessarily make it invasive. What makes it invasive is when it doesn't have something to keep the balance in check. It's a plant that doesn't have an animal that eats it.
right.
It's a bug that doesn't have a bigger bug that it's fill in the blank, right? And often we think about invasive. That word feels, and I mean, right now, especially in politics, in American politics, that word is like fraught because it's been placed on people who are actually just trying to find like safety and this kind of a thing. But the reality is, in nature, this is just about balance. There is no such thing as a weed, right? And we want to pluck all the weeds and get rid of them. But the fact is, there's no such thing as a weed. It's just that some plants don't work great in certain environments because they don't have the checks and balances. Nature shows us how to do all this stuff. If we would actually pause and think about it and look, I mean, we could find the balance that, Bryan, you're talking about. It's all around us. It's built in us. It's a part of us, right? We all have cancer cells, but not everybody dies of cancer, right? Because our bodies, this is how nature works, and yet we've so upended nature and the natural way of things to make something completely unnatural. We're our own undoing. There's ways to get out of this. We can see it if we bother to look. But our blinders serve us in ways that provide power, provide influence, provide finances, whatever.
Have you heard of there's all the Fermi paradox or all the theories around why we haven't seen any evidence of aliens, even though there should be, because of all the different planets and stuff. And one of the theories is that intelligence itself is antithetical to survival.
Well, at some point, did you see on a similar note? I saw a post by William Shatner this week that he finally got to go up in space. Have you seen?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know
his revelation.
What was the?
It was like I finally got to go out to space, and it wasn't a final frontier, and it made me realize that what we have on this planet is more precious than anything we could possibly find out there, and we better start pouring our resources into holding on to it because it's the only one we got. It was kind of amazing.
Mm.
It's funny what perspective does, huh?
doesn't it? Yeah, even William Shatner.
Yep.
But and that's the thing. I think that that's kind of part of, I love science fiction, and I love the pushing the boundaries and the frontiers and all that kind of stuff. It's really exciting, and I think it's part of the human spirit. But it also can be a sickness that's coupled to an appetite that just won't quit, right?
I see.
And how much of
I firmly believe you're seeing that playing out with AI right now.
yeah, yep.
Yep.
It's just
Mm.
it's about appetite. Man, like this is Sunday school stuff. What is it, James, about ambition? And you say you're gonna go and do this and that, and you're gonna conquer this. Maybe you need to think a little bit about here and now and be a little more humble, right? And like you brought up very early on in the conversation, Matt, Tower of Babel, which I always thought was a little mean spirit on God's end. It's like, there those guys are. They're building shit. That's kind of cool. What's wrong, God? You can't handle that? But no.
Checks and balances.
And in a way, what a brilliant,
Uh,
what a brilliant stroke. So
mm.
what's the Tower of Babel move for um for all of our human ambitions that seem to be on steroids right now? What would put the brakes on this? And
Um, Catastrophe often will.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's
but
the one. That's the painful way to get there. But yeah, it will.
it now
I mean, Noah's Ark follows the Tower of
right.
Babel.
Yep.
That's a really dark story. It's amazing how long kids, huh?
And yet, yep. Yet it plays.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Bryan said. Maybe intelligence is the thing that doesn't endure. Single-celled organisms have existed on this planet a lot longer than we have, man.
Yeah. Or just to be a cockroach,
Right.
So, right. So, human ambition, right? Sort of rugged individualism. But we also have built into us other aspects, right?
Mm.
Compassion, the moral conscience. Uh,
Yes,
that's
but we can be convinced that we are following those things by doing the opposite of what really accomplishes those things.
Yeah, because it's really easy. Well, okay, so and this is what really frustrates me right now with a certain group of people that raised me, with all sorts of amazing stories and moral premises that I bucked against, and but that kind of divine, that calls to the divine in us to see beyond ourselves, to respond to not a moral code that we all agree on, and as soon as things get scarce and weird, we decide that we're just going to take ours, right? But a real call to be something, an obligation to something beyond ourselves. I think that's our only hope. But so much of that has been tainted by the same sickness of power and fear, and that's probably one of the most depressing things that I'm seeing where we're at. Because in the past, I would have said, yeah, but good people are going to rise up and they're going to do, they're going to follow the thing that calls them. And I hope that's true, but I don't think it's going to be the people I thought it was going to be. I think it's going to be the atheists. It's going to be the people who've kind of given up on things and decided they're just in it for the good that they can do in the moment. I don't know.
I think the biblical narrative shows us, if if even whether you believe in it or not, I think the biblical narrative shows us that what we think is going to happen
Yeah.
is typically not what's going to happen. And the people who are in are not always the people who are in, and people who should be out are the people who actually are in. And I think so. To go along with that, I think we're all going to be surprised. I think many people will be surprised to find out who the real heroes are in this story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good note to end on.
I agree.
So just keep looking for those heroes and try to be
Yes.
one.
There you go.
And be
Yes.
one.
With a lowercase h, because as soon as you capitalize that h, there's something about
Yep.
it, and you end up
Yep.
being one of those other kinds.
Yeah, well, maybe heroes isn't the right word. Maybe we should think more like Mr. Rogers and look for the helpers.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
how can I help?
And the people pointing stuff out like Ren is.
Yeah,
A to the man.
Yep.
absolutely.
Cool. All right, guys.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep.
See ya. Thanks, man.